I was banned by my spouse for betting on teams in the state of Oklahoma, but she's working this weekend and she ain't listening to this right now. So we're betting Oklahoma State.
Oh, baby. I'm starting off with the corpse.
But he's going to get to take a nap and fix a sandwich in this pocket.
The Big Bets on Campus podcast.
All right, here we go.
What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the Week 13 college football betting preview. I'm Stuckey, and joining me, as always, my fellow BBOC co-host, Colin Wilson. Colin was just looking over your card at some of the marquee games, including the first two that we're going to cover here. I think we're going to be head-to-head in a couple.
Oh my
which
God.
we haven't been in the past couple of weeks. So I'm excited to get in to these games. We'll hit, 20, 25 games in total, as always. But before we get started here, got a couple questions on Twitter about this today. We will roll out our regular College Hoops episodes in the weeks ahead with our old friends at the Three Man Weave. They'll start at the beginning of December. And then I'll be getting involved, as always, starting in early January. But for those looking to bet on the big Thanksgiving week tournaments next week, Maui Invitational, and all of the other games during Feast Week, we'll have a very quick special bonus episode releasing on Sunday with Mike Calabrese and the one and only Tanner McGrath covering those games. So college basketball coverage right around the corner. But we have a lot of college football still to get to. So let's jump right into it. Let's start with our marquee games of the weekend. And let's start with Indiana at Ohio State. Ohio State, this number really got popped. Down to, depending on where you are, bet 11.5, 12.5 point favorite. I dug into this game for a very long time, and I'm on the Hoosiers. I'm trusting Cignetti. It's a tough game to handicap because Indiana hasn't played anybody, but you can adjust for opponent. Look at what they've done. They've dominated almost everyone they've played. People are pointing at 1/2 against Michigan in the second half. I've done that. I think I went back and watched that. They had a fumble at their own 10. Rod had 2 drops. I think they just got really conservative. The offensive line is what I'm worried about here. And their left guard is out for the year. And their offensive line's been really good all year. The left guard's out. They had a multi-year JMU starter who slid in, and he allowed a couple more pressures than the original starter had allowed all year. I'll be watching that offensive line closely early on. But Indiana coming off a bye, Cignetti, I love their coordinators. I love Cignetti. They're going to have a really good game plan here. And they're going to be Cignetti's going to be playing the disrespect card for 2 weeks. National media trashing Indiana and their schedule. And what really put me over the hump here is after diving deep into the Indiana defense and the Ohio State offense, particularly their offensive line, already lost their left tackle. Now, at practice this week, you lose your starting center to a torn Achilles. Probably going to slide your guard over to center and then bring in a reserve guard who I don't think is very good. Ohio State is one of the best rosters, if not the best, in college football. The one position they couldn't really afford injuries was along the offensive line. They don't have great depth there. And even further than that, the 2 positions were left tackle and center. So now you're going to be reshuffling your offensive line again, multiple new guys. That's a problem against this Indiana Kamara and this Indiana defensive line that can get into the backfield. They just cause a lot of issues for opposing offensive lines. So I don't think Ohio State's going to be able to run the ball here. And then I think Indiana's going to be able to get pressure on Howard, and Howard is not great under pressure. Also, something to keep in mind, there could be a little weather here. Ohio State's a snail. They are so slow. It's very bizarre. They're so slow under Kelly. You might limit a possession or 2. And then on top of all that, Indiana knows the margin matters. So even if they're getting blown out here, if they're down 17, if they're down 20 late, they're going to keep pushing. It's not like a regular dog, oh, we're down. And Ohio State doesn't care about margin here. They have Michigan on deck. They win, they're going to play Oregon in the Big Ten championship. I think Indiana's legit. I'm trusting in Cignetti. I think the Ohio State offensive line is going to be a major problem here. Give me the Hoosiers and the points. I think we're going head to head here. You
It
like
depends
Ohio
on
State.
it depends on how many points you're getting. I think we got to market it. I was happy I got my 11 and a half, got up to 13. Now we're back down to 11 and a half and a couple of sharper books. So there's
Well,
definitely,
let's grade it at I have 13, but you have 11 and a half.
yeah.
So what about a 12? Head to head at 12?
The key number of 12, sure, put it on the board against each other. I I think, I wrote this up for action so everybody can go read like the data dump that I did on these two teams. And the more I kept digging, the more I was led to Ohio State, which is weird because I think I've been the biggest Ohio State hater this entire season. I think what you need to know is that both of these offenses are really heavy on rush attempts with Chip Kelly, Cignetti's offense. Both offenses use a heavy amount of inside zone. Curtis Rourke, fully healthy after the fingernail surgery, should be a factor in the run game. They kind of protected him from running. I think he's going to be full go here with Tyson Lawton, Justice Ellison. They both have 9 TDs apiece on the ground. Ellison's been more elusive, 3.8 yards after first contact. But when you look at Jim Knowles' nickel defense shut down Penn State's rushing attack that used a wide variety of run concepts. There's some things about the rush D you kind of question, but when you look and see what Indiana does from an inside zone perspective, you know that Ohio State can defend that. They are much better against outside zone, 60% success rate, but there's still 53% success rate against inside zone. So I do expect there to be advantages for Ohio State here. There's a heavy amount of man coverage for Rourke here. Jim Knowles is 40% of coverage snaps running man here. He will mix in a little cover 1, cover 3. It's going to be a little bit different than what Rourke has seen in the past in third down attempts and known passing downs from a coverage look that he's going to see here. Really, what made it on this side of the ball for me stuck, that box score for Indiana against Michigan, particularly in the second half, really shed some light on the strength of this Indiana defense. 3 yards per carry in 24 attempts. The Wolverines stuffed 46% of rushing attempts by Indiana. That Michigan defense had their way with that Indiana offensive line. Passing downs, only a 29% success rate in 21 attempts. They were behind schedule against Michigan. Indiana failed to create a methodical drive against Michigan's defense. They didn't have a single drive with 10 or more plays. And here's what really solidified it for me for Ohio State on this side of the ball. Michigan is subpar in defending inside zone. They're only 47% success rate on the year. They shut down Indiana's rushing attack. When I go to the other side of the ball, I've got problems with this secondary. I think Will Howard could have a big day here. He's had 2 consecutive games without a turnover-worthy play. You look at what he does with his legs in the biggest competition. His biggest rushing attempts have come against Oregon. He had 9, against Penn State. He had 11. I think his wheels are going to be a factor. I think his arm is going to be a factor against this 3.35, which, look at all their numbers. They're great. I know their strength of schedule is outside the top 100, so you can't argue these havoc, these quality drives, top 10 success rate for the 3.35. But one stat bothers me about Indiana. Outside the top 50 in creating a contested catch. What are the offenses we've faced here? Michigan, Michigan State, Washington, Nebraska, and Northwestern in the last 5. Are any of these passing offenses? No. Tell me why Indiana is outside the top 50 in creating a contested catch. I think that's going to be a huge problem here against Ohio State when they do elect to pass. Plus another thing that pops out on the stat sheet, Indiana's 40th in defensive finishing drives. I mean, I just named off those offenses. That is not a juggernaut list of the last 5 offenses they have played, and you're outside the top 40 and finishing drives defensively. That scares me. I think the one thing that you can count on for Indiana is they are going to score, and I think they're going to have chances to score. I think there's over potential here, particularly because Ryan Day mentioned in his presser that we're worried about broken tackles. Well, if you look at Ohio State, they're 89th in broken tackles allowed. If you look at Indiana, all their skill positions, they're 33rd in creating broken tackles. So I do think there could be a busted player or two that gets Indiana on the board, but there's just way too much here. What Michigan did to Indiana in the second half, I think really kind of exposed what this inside zone rush offense is for Indiana. And on the other side of the ball, Indiana's not swatting balls out of the air. So I'm taking Ohio State here.
I actually lean the under too. I think this will be a really slow paced game. I'm against you in every way. But I know Indiana's schedule is bad, but look at the common opponents. Ohio State should have lost to Nebraska at home. Indiana beat them 56-7. Let's see. Northwestern at home, Ohio State. Well, that was in Wrigley. Ohio State won 31-7. They got a 1-yard touchdown drive. Northwestern 0 for 3 in the red zone, like no points. Indiana on the road, 41-24 in that game. And Michigan State, Ohio State won 38-7. Indiana won 47-10. I think the noon kick hurts them. I think the Ohio State offensive line is the difference. And Ohio State red zone regression is coming. Someone eventually is going to score in the red zone. I mean, last week you get the Northwestern fumble. They can't get a fourth down. Don't be surprised if that's the one thing that gives me pause with the under. Indiana turns the red zone trips into touchdowns. Head to head on the first game, I'm riding with Cignetti. Should be a good one. Big noon, or I should say big 12:15 kickoff on Fox. Army at Notre Dame in prime time. Undefeated Army. Pretty wild. We have 2 undefeated teams at this point in the season that are catching double digits off of a bye. This game will be played in a neutral site, and in Yankee Stadium. Notre Dame 14.5-point favorite. I'm riding with Army.
Wow.
I thought I was going to be on Notre Dame, but I dug in, and I like Army. Number 1, simple handicap, catching over 2 touchdowns. I always talk about that's the key number with the Service Academy. Get me over 2 touchdowns. Service Academy's catching over 2 touchdowns since 2005, 44, 26, and 2 against the spread, 63%, covering by 5 points per game. Army in particular, 66%. And yeah, you could say, look, Notre Dame blew out Navy earlier this season, which is true. Navy had 6 turnovers, and Navy's quarterback got hurt in that game. Quarterback hurt his thumb. I don't think that's going to happen here. This game is going to be super slow paced. I mean, Army's the slowest team in the country. Notre Dame is super slow. And I have Army power rated better than Navy, and I couldn't get over 2 touchdowns with Navy against Notre Dame. And I look at this Notre Dame team. Yes, they've been just blowing out everybody, but who have they played? I mean, oh my God, we're talking about Army's schedule. Army's played nobody since losing to Northern Illinois. And by the way, Northern Illinois and Army are very similar. Here's who Notre Dame's played: Purdue, Miami of Ohio, Louisville. They should have lost that game. They were outplayed in that game at home. Louisville has not been great. Stanford with a backup quarterback, I believe. Georgia Tech with a backup quarterback, and that game was closer than the final score indicated. Navy with 6 turnovers, the corpse of Florida State, and then Virginia, where they get 28 points in the first half off of 5 Virginia turnovers. I also dug into these numbers. That's nobody, and none of those teams really can run the ball. A lot of those teams can't run the ball at all, and Notre Dame's run defensive metrics a little shaky. I think Army can control the ball here, shorten this game. There's going to be, I think, just minuscule amount of possessions. Army off of the bye. I like them here. I think this Notre Dame team is at the peak of its market. And you might say that's the case with Army too. I just wanted over 2 touchdowns. Give me Army to stay within the number here. You're going to go head to head. We going head to head here? I'll even call it at 14.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and make it 14, because I think would I get 13? Somewhere around there. I don't know. But
No, you got 14. I have 14.5.
No, I was talking about, I bet it early in the week. I think I got it better, but it doesn't matter. I still wrote it up for action. I still told everybody if it's at 14.5 and you can find a way. I'm looking at one of the sharper books right now that's laying minus 14.5, minus 104. So you should be able to get 14 at 120 or better. So no, I will take the Irish side here. This is one of those things where it's like, I think it's going to be an absolute bludgeoning, but I need to look at the numbers to verify. Yes, Army strength of schedule is 133rd. The toughest defenses they've gone up against. Who here? Rice, ECU, Air Force. And Bryson Daly was not hurt against North Texas. He was full speed after missing the Air Force game because of an undisclosed injury or illness.
He had a foot injury. It was a foot infection.
Yeah, foot infection. So, he was healthy. He was a full go for North Texas, and just, I don't know, the points, just, the game was just wild. Kind of throw that one out. But when you look at Army's offense, they're no longer really a triple option offense. They run the same rate of man and outside zone run concepts than they do out of the triple. So they've morphed a little bit. And Notre Dame is just elite against defending outside zone, 61% success rate. So and then you go to the secondary, you have to say, well, defensive coordinator Al Golden, he's going to be working on not just getting that defensive front of Notre Dame to stay disciplined, but he's got to keep them watching for that play action pass that is coming. Notre Dame was extremely disciplined against Navy. They did not leak anywhere, not at the edge position, not against play action pass. If you look at Navy, they posted success rate of rushing below national average against Notre Dame. They only had 2 runs that went over 12 yards. They had 6 play action attempts. Only 3 of them were catches for an 8 out of 13.2 yards. No scores there, no damages to the Notre Dame defense. So Notre Dame played exceptionally well against the Navy triple and their attempts at running play action. When you go to the other side,
how much? I mean, like the thing is, that game just slipped away. I mean, Horvath was also hurt. He still ran for 130. And by the way, Notre Dame's going to be probably without one of their best defensive linemen in this game, who's highly questionable. But that game slipped away from Navy. Navy can't come back once they turned it over 5 times, and then good night, the game's over. If that happens to Army, you're going to cover. Notre Dame's going to blow them out. If the Army turns the ball over a couple times in the fourth quarter and goes down 14-0 right away, just like what happened with Navy, yeah, they're toast. But
okay, well, the other side
not happening.
On the other side of the ball, there was no answer for Notre Dame's offense, and I don't think there's going to be any answer for Notre Dame's offense here from Army either. I mean, I know Army's D. You look at it, top 5 quality drives, finishing drives. Strength of schedule 133rd, right? Army is just inside the top 50 in broken tackles allowed. That is not going to work against Riley Leonard, Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, all efficient, all explosive. Their offensive line is top 30 in line yards, stuff rate. They should absolutely manhandle this Army front. And if you go and look at Army, I tweeted out about this. I just could not believe how bad Army has been against certain run concepts. 41% success rate against inside zone. That's what Notre Dame's going to run straight at them with. That number drops when the personnel gets even heavier, when Notre Dame decides to throw a 12 out there with 2 tight ends blocking. Notre Dame should be flying through these holes and gashing Army's defense consistently, not like once per drive, like every snap. So can Army keep up on offense? Maybe. I don't know. But I go back to the fact that you've heard me say this for weeks. Notre Dame is a beauty pageant team. They need every point they can get. They need every scoring differential they can get. They're fighting for their lives in the seeds of the college football playoff. If there's an extra score to get at the end here, I wouldn't see Jeff Monken ever doing something like that, but I definitely see Marcus Freeman doing it in this situation. But handicap of the game for me is the fact that Notre Dame's defense does not fall for play action, and Notre Dame's offense is not going to get stopped by this Army front running inside zone. As a matter of fact, they should just absolutely manhandle Army's defensive line.
Death by 1,000 cuts. That's what that's going to be. It's going to be pain when Army puts together multiple 9-10 minute drives, and then it becomes almost impossible to cover this number without turnovers. Obviously, if there's turnovers, it's lights out. I am worried about the Army red zone regression on defense. Like, no one can score on them. That's not going to last forever. But the Notre Dame rush D, 84th in success rate. And who have they played? They're vulnerable against the run. Their pass D is elite. I think that Army can just control this clock as long as they stay in it early. All right, 2 head-to-heads to start off the show.
Not on this one, though. I think we're aligned on the next marquee.
Colorado, Kansas 3-point underdog at Arrowhead. I'm on Kansas. I've been riding Kansas. By the way, this will be, if you look at the current top 25 of the college football playoff rankings, this will be the 6th team that Kansas plays that's ranked inside the top 25. You know how many Colorado has played previously? 0. Colorado, how many wins ranked teams have they beat so far this year? 0. Kansas 2 in the past 2 weeks against the top of the Pac-12. I mean, if you look at just who Colorado has played, their wins in the Big 12. Did I say the Pac-12? In the Big 12, the 6 teams they beat have a combined 16-26 league record. And if you include their home loss to Kansas State, 20-29, 40%. I mean, Kansas, their Big 12 opponents, 31-18, 63%. So, and if you even dig in a little bit more, Colorado's received some breaks. I mean, they beat Baylor on a Hail Mary. Utah, the week after that, Utah lost to BYU and their roster was decimated by injury. UCF, before UCF made the quarterback change. Texas Tech,
Penalties.
also a lot of injuries. The week after, they upset Iowa State, Colorado coming off of a bye. They won the schedule lottery. And I like this matchup as well. Kansas can't stop the run. Well, Colorado doesn't really run it well, and they don't really run it. They're one of the 5 most pass-happy teams in all of college football. Where is Kansas's strength on defense? It's their corners. It's Dotson and Bryant. And, I mean, they're probably going to give up some explosives here. Colorado's going to get explosives. They're really talented. I also like Marvin Grant's coming along in the slot as well for Kansas. Kansas safeties aren't that great, but not many teams have 2 really good corners in the Big 12 that can match up with these receivers. Kansas doesn't get a lot of pressure. So, yeah, look, Shedeur Sanders, he's really good. The receivers are really good. They're going to make some plays here. But I think it's a decent matchup for the Kansas defense. And even if Colorado's scoring, I think Kansas can keep up. This Colorado defense is improved. I mean, Livingston, the defense coordinator, I talked about it a lot, how his adjustments. By the way, Cincinnati, the Bengals, he came from the Bengals. They haven't been making as good of adjustments this year. How much was he responsible for some of that happened in Cincinnati? But Colorado, their defense is improved, but I think Kansas can move the ball here. Colorado's defense is still not elite. Jalen Daniels, fully healthy. His legs in particular, I think, can give Colorado an issue. And I think at their peak, the ceiling of both of these offenses are similar, right in the same ballpark. They're probably the highest in the Big 12. But I think Kansas has the edge in that they can run and pass. And here are the other reasons why I like Kansas. Finishing drives. I like Kansas. Maybe you're going to talk about this, but Kansas, I think, is better when the field condenses because they're a better running team. Also, I have the better coach, just from an in-game perspective, better head coach, better special teams. Kansas' special teams aren't elite, but Colorado special teams are so bad. Also, the more disciplined team. Look at penalties. So all these, in what should be a close game, all of these ancillary factors, I think I give a nod to Kansas. I think this is a coin flip game. For what it's worth, Lance Leipold, 17-7-1 against the spread as a home underdog, 70.8%, covering over 6 points per game. Rock chalk, we're back to it. I really do hope they win. Nothing against Colorado. I just want to keep betting Kansas, and I want to bet them in a bowl. And obviously, they need to win out to do so. Yep. Rock chalk.
Put it on the board. We're together on this one. I think when I started studying this game, you want to know when regression is coming, and it has come for Kansas hardcore. They have 4 wins on the season. If you go and look at their post-game win expectancy, right now they should be at 5.6 wins. They're closer to 6-4 than they are to 4-6. And if you look at, they've just toasted some of the best teams in the conference over the last month. So if you look at what Kansas is doing on offense, they've just been electric on the ground. Their defense was the driver behind beating BYU. Got to love that pooch punt from Jalen Daniels, hopping on that, setting up field position for the touchdown to get that win, get BYU out of our grills. But really, it's the rush attack that's been done all the damage here with Jalen Daniels and Devin Neal. They're 11th in efficiency, top 10 in stuff rate, 3rd in average distance before contact. That's something. Kansas runners do not get touched for quite a while when they're rushing the ball. That's Daniels and Neal on the offensive line. But the transformation for Colorado has come on the defensive side. And they are much better with Robert Livingston as their defensive coordinator. They're top 25 in havoc and coverage. But, as I point out these things that Colorado's great at, it's against the pass. They have a trio of edge rushers and BJ Green, Samuel Okunlola, Arden Walker. They have 74 pressures combined, but that's against the pass. And, Travis Hunter, he saved a game at corner earlier this season, but he got beat for his first touchdown, last week. So it's something definitely to keep an eye on. But I think this elite rushing attack for Kansas right now would give a lot of teams trouble, even SEC defenses. When you go to the other side of the ball, I do see a couple of reasons why Shedeur might have some drives that come up a little bit premature. He is exclusively gone to Travis Hunter. 90 targets this season, 74 catches. Shador right now is 7th in the nation in catchable ball rate. He is extremely accurate. You cannot, put a kink in any of his numbers. With Wester and Hunter, they always get open here. Rushing attack came alive against UCF, but it's still really kind of a second option in the play calling on offense. It's really more the Shador show right now with Travis Hunter. And Shador has dominated cover 3. He's not going to see cover 3. He has very tepid mid FBS success rate numbers against cover 1, which is what DC Brian Borland loves. So I think Shador is going to get a little bit different look with a single high safety, and I think it might throw him off just enough to promote what is a horrible offensive momentum killer rate. For me, the reason why I took Kansas in this game came down to one reason: offensive momentum killer. That is something that looks at interceptions, fumbles, missed field goals, sacks, penalties. What does an offense do to shoot themselves in the foot? Colorado's outside the top 100. Kansas is 15th. They hum like a machine. Kansas is the side. Colorado D, with their edges, I think that they could have a little bit of resistance to the outside zone that Jalen Daniels and Devin Neal run. So I do think at 59.5, I projected at 55. I could be talked into an under, but no, for me, this is Kansas on the side all the way. The biggest reason is one of these offenses is much more clean than the other.
It'd be amazing if in back weeks, Kansas knocks off Iowa State, BYU, and then Colorado from a team that was 2-6, in large part due to some of the worst luck at the end of games in the entire country. Staying in the Big 12, Arizona State, BYU. Arizona State field goal favorite here. Where are we sitting at across the board right now?
Boy, it's a mix of 3 and 3.5s.
That's pretty much where it's been. I was impressed with the BYU run defense, which has been a problem, but I think that's ultimately what's probably going to be the difference here. Scadaboo, even Sam Levitt and his legs. And I have to give Levitt credit. He's come along as a passer, and Tyson has just been amazing at receiver. But the Arizona State offensive line should get a push here. BYU struggle with mobile quarterbacks, struggle just against the run in general. Mm-hmm. So I think that just Arizona State's going to have an easier time sustaining drives than BYU, which I don't think is going to find it as easy to run the ball. They're going to find themselves in more difficult third down situations. But we've probably reached like the top of the market on Arizona State. I think 3 is like the perfect number. So I got nothing there. Do you have anything there?
Yeah, I want BYU, but I think this number is going to move, and I think it's going to move in the way of Arizona State. What you mentioned from a market perspective, we're about getting to Arizona State's peak with what Kenny Dillingham has done, which a couple of the games have been smoke and mirrors, right? I mean,
UCF, they should have lost to UCF.
Right.
2 weeks ago, well, this is like a similar price range against UCF with a backup quarterback, and they should have lost.
Right. And now you're getting the one-loss BYU team off of a loss where they should be uber focused. And so I think the one thing that I liked in BYU's numbers is that Arizona State has 0 pass rush. They're 133rd. I mean, there's only one team worse in generating a pass rush than Arizona State. Listen, we don't like Jake Retzloff. We haven't liked him all season because of inaccuracy, but he's going to get to take a nap and fix a sandwich in this pocket. The Sun Devils are mid FBS in coverage and contested catch rate. We know that Retzloff, even in a clean pocket, isn't very accurate, but he's going to have all day to throw here. Arizona State's heavy rush offense, they could have success. They're 16th in quality drives, but scoring has been a real issue when they get close to the end zone. And BYU is top 25 in defensive pass EPA. Jay Hill that secondary does not let anything get behind them for the Cougs. So also, if you look, there is a monster advantage here stuck in special teams and penalties that favor BYU here. I want BYU. If 3.5 is not widely available, I'd like it to be widely available for everybody else. And if this thing's going to steam, I'd be more than happy to take the last BYU number.
Yeah, I mean, even last week against Kansas State, I mean, they deserved to win that game. They were up 21-0. So, there's some noise whenever there's a box score like that. But, Kansas State, they had 3 turnovers. They missed a field goal, multiple 4th downs they didn't get. So, yeah, there's been a lot of noise in Arizona State's results, but you got to give credit to Kenny Dillingham. At over, yeah, I mean, I think the correct line is 3. So once it starts creeping over 3, I don't mind the look at
because
BYU on the
BYU's
bounce
peak,
back.
because BYU's peak in the market was 2 weeks ago against Utah. That's when we were like at peak hate, right? Like this number should not be this, right? But they're 2 weeks post that, and everybody's kind of gotten them exposed, and the negativity that has kind of come off of our content. I think that's shared by a lot of other people about what BYU is, but Arizona State's the team right now that's getting the peak market that it's time to fade.
Yep. And then finally, Texas A&M Auburn. Obviously, an important game for Texas A&M. Keep their college football playoff hopes alive. Keep their SEC championship hopes alive. Auburn needs to win out to get to a bowl. Yeah, Texas A&M 2.5 point favorite here on the road, coming off the bye. And they stay focused.
Mhm.
Mike Elko asked, "Are you looking ahead to Texas?" He said, and I quote, this is a quote from the presser.
I think our focus is single-handedly on on Auburn right now and locked in on what we got to get done.
He
Little
said
bit of a
he
slip
said
there.
that out. He said that out loud. That's
Yeah,
great.
he said our focus is single-handedly on Texas. Well, no, he just said, I think it was just a slip of the tongue, which is just funny. Like, is he really just thinking about Texas? So our Auburn's defense has been elite all year, one of the more underrated units in all of college football. I think Texas A&M is, and look, I've invested in them. I think that they're pretty overrated. Like if you look at just their body of work and how they were able to catch teams with the surprise quarterbacks. And what's their best win? Their best win is Missouri. Is that their best win?
Yeah.
So, but here's my problem. It's like I wanted to back Auburn here. I wanted 3. And I also don't see how this game goes over. I think it'll be super low scoring. I think Texas A&M might play a little tight. Auburn just, and by the way, Hugh Freeze is 0-10 against teams in his career at Auburn, 0-10 straight up against teams that finish with a above 500 record. So what I'm worried about is Auburn all year just loses dumb games because they're dumb and they can't convert yards into points and they have bad turnovers and they have awful special teams.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I'm really worried about. A&M elite special teams. This should be a close game, low scoring game. They have, I'm a Lou Groza and Ray Guy award voter. I think Texas A&M's punter and kicker were both on both semifinalist lists. You know who wasn't on either? The kicker for Auburn. Their kicker's hurt. They went to their backup, who's so bad. So now they have a walk-on who they went to. He made his field goals last week, but they were like 20-yarders. He was at a D3 school. It closed. And then he was like going to take night classes, I think, at Auburn. That's their kicker now. So like they just do dumb stuff. Like that's my fear here. But I do think Auburn, who's just been super unlucky, but their defense is legit elite. But I think they're going to come out here, rely on Hunter, rely on their rushing attack. I think Texas A&M is going to try to do the same, but their backfield is banged up. Their offensive line isn't fully healthy. I think this game is going to be like a slog.
Yep.
I lean Auburn. I want 3. But my fear is just all those little things and the coaching and the special teams and the turnovers and all that. And A&M is going to find a way. What are your thoughts here?
No one comes into Jordan Hare in November and pushes Auburn around unless your name is Diego Pavia. So listen, I think this is going to be a really tough environment. The overlook is real for Texas A&M. I did buy Auburn at 3, but I had to pay minus 126 for it. So it wasn't one of the larger bets that I've made. Hate paying juice, but a SEC team at home, I project this game Texas A&M -1. You're right. Lackadaisical or loss of focus is there in the tackling numbers. For some reason, Mike Elko's team is outside the top 100 in tackling. For some reason, there are just certain gaps that they have in here in their numbers because they're stellar on the defensive line. I think you're going to see Jarquez Hunter and Peyton Thorne run a lot of outside zone away from Nick Scorton. That's really their run concept that they like to do. But when you go to the other side of the ball, like Le'Veon Moss was out last night on that last night's SEC availability report. Ruben Owens doubtful. I mean, who's running the ball for them? Amari Daniels. He only had 5 carries against New Mexico State last week.
DJ, yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, right. So, what kind of offense are they going to turn into? Because if it's a passing offense, that's something Texas A&M's really kind of struggled with, especially when you look at their on-target rate, 128th in combination of Weigman and Marcel Reed throwing this year. Jarquez Hunter and Peyton Thorne, they run every single run concept here. And I think it's going to be a lot for Texas A&M. I think it's a hostile environment. I make the game Texas A&M -1. So I wouldn't blame anyone for taking Auburn +2.5. And if you get feeling a little weird about it in the middle of the game, you want to buy out of it and try to get a field goal on the other side, I probably will be in that same boat. But just cannot ignore the overlook, Jordan Hare, and the fact that Texas A&M does have gaffes. Of the tackling numbers are just kind of surprising to me when I look at their sheet.
I need 3. Like I can see this game easily. Auburn misses a field goal late, and then A&M makes a field goal and wins by 3.
Texas A&M's 121st in penalties. Like that's what I'm talking about with this lackadaisical, like loss of focus, and like they just shoot themselves in the foot.
Well, so is Auburn. Auburn does that better than anyone.
They just give you pick sixes and ruin my life.
The special teams are what concern me for Auburn. The special teams mismatch in this game, but I think my favorite bet in the game is the under. If I can't get 3.
All right, before we move on, quick announcement for you guys. Action Network is running back our annual Black Friday sale, offering our best price of the year on a year-long Action Pro subscription. So if you still aren't a Pro subscriber, visit actionnetwork.com/Black Friday to get $40 a year off of Pro and receive instant access to all of the picks and projections from myself, Colin Calabrese, and our whole Action Network team. That's actionnetwork.com/Black Friday for the best price of the year on Action Pro.
All right, let's get to the rundown. BC, we're going back to our BC boys at home, +3, anything 3 or better against North Carolina. Look, credit to Mac Brown. UNC turned around its season. I mean, they lost 4 straight. Some of it was unlucky after losing that embarrassing game against JMU. Had a bye week, have won 3 straight. They're going to a bowl. Credit to Mac Brown. A lot of people wrote them off. But they beat Virginia, who was completely, their offensive line was 3rd string center. They were completely injury ravaged. Wake Forest, and it really wasn't that impressive. And the corpse of Florida State. Am I that impressed? Not really. What's changed for North Carolina? Not much. They got Rucker back. Rucker's been a menace. He had like 18 pressures and 6 sacks over the past 3 games. So their defense has more juice, and they cleaned up some things on that end. But I think I like the spot for BC. I'm a big fan of what O'Brien's doing. I don't think there's a drop-off between Castellanos and James. I actually think James is an upgrade because he's a better fit for this offense. What can BC do on defense? They can stop the run. That's their strength, and they might even get Cam Arnold, their leader, their defensive linebacker, back. They're dealing with but that's the strength, and you have to stop Omarion Hampton. That's what North Carolina wants to do. Feed him. He's one of the best backs in the country. Would be getting more attention if there was an Ashton Genty. And BC's secondary, very dicey. Couple injuries, might be starting a true freshman. I've actually been impressed with Kid McShane. But North Carolina is not going to kill you through the air. Criswell, by the way, has some major regression coming. If you look at he's 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 7 big-time throws, 11 turnover-worthy plays. They also lost their tight end for the year. I think BC will be able to run it. They have an identity now. They have the right running back rotation, set up some play action, use some misdirection against this UNC defense that can be had in that department. I like BC. Desperate team, need to win out to get to a bowl, both games at home. And North Carolina, maybe the bye kind of killed their momentum, but they're already bowl eligible. How motivated are they for a noon kick here? I have some questions there. Mac Brown, for what it's worth, 5-11 against the spread as a road favorite in league play. I like BC +3.
I like BC too. Took them today, 5-5.
On the board?
Yeah, we're on. Put it on the board. We just need 1 win here to get BC into bowl. It's a heavy rush offense. It's going to take advantage of a Carolina defense. It's 116th in line yards. That's not good. That means the offensive line for BC is going to be able to push around North Carolina all day. And then when you go to the other side of the ball, BC's rush defense is top 35 in efficiency and line yards. So the trenches are going to belong to Boston College here. Generally, that's enough for me to make a bet. But when you go a little bit further into North Carolina's numbers, they just don't create broken or missed tackles. They're 124th nationally, and BC is 29th in tackling. I just don't see a lot of – I don't expect North Carolina's offense to have efficiency, success, in moving the chains and methodicals. And I certainly don't see them creating broken or missed tackles, ranking 124th against what is a very disciplined BC defense. So give me the Eagles here. Let's go.
Minnesota, Penn State. My hot takes, I'm going to hedge my hot takes, but one of SMU or Penn State is going down this weekend. I I've had this spot circle for Minnesota off the bye. Penn State second straight road game. I love this Minnesota defense. I have this Minnesota defense rated in the top 20 nationally, pushing top 15. They are legit under Corey Heatherman. And this Penn State offense still continues to underwhelm me. I think they have some guys to throw at Tyler Warren. They can man up on the outside and load the box here. Like, they can man up against the Penn State wide receivers. Also, on the other side of the ball, we'll see if Minnesota gets back. Let me see if there's been an update. They might get their left guard back, who's missed the past 2 games and had to shuffle the whole offensive line. I'll have to check on that. But it's amazing what this Minnesota offense is under Max Brosmer, just improving every week. They've gone from, they're kind of like a mini air raid. I mean, they were like 60% rush last year. Now they're 45%. They went from 13th in the country in rush rate to 113th.
They're like a snack. They're like a snack size air raid.
Yeah, and it's it's a lot of short passes, like as an extension of the run game. But I think that's the way to attack this Penn State defense. Still have questions about their coverage. Like, we saw them against like USC and Ohio State. We're able to move the ball. You can't really run on them consistently. Minnesota's not really trying to do that. I think this game's going to be super low scoring. I think that Minnesota can have some success sustaining drives to slow-paced teams. Penn State really lacks explosiveness. It's hard for them to build margin against legit defenses. I think they have a shot. Minnesota's a shot here. Fleck 11-5 against the spread with 10 or more days of prep, and that only includes the regular season. He's also won all 5 bowl games he's appeared in with Minnesota. I like this staff. I like their coordinators. I really just think this defense can keep them in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the Gophers. I never win Penn State bets, but I actually have this year. Got the monkey off my back with Washington. I like Minnesota.
Nothing on the side here for me. I make the side exactly what the number is. I felt like the under, and you pointed out a lot of things why you would like the under here. Not only are these teams both 30 seconds per play on offense, there's no scenario where either team is getting gashed. I mean, Minnesota 82nd and 125th in rush pass EPA. Penn State's 111th in rush EPA on offense. I don't see a lot going on here. You know, we got temps below 40 degrees. We got a number of 45, and I'm not expecting Brosmer to light up this Penn State D because Brosmer's a short passer and Penn State's great at tackling in space. You go to the other side of the ball, there's just no EPA advantages for Penn State whatsoever, and Minnesota's top 25 and a lot of things that stop what Penn State does. So it's a short number. I do think the under is the play. I just couldn't make a case for either offense to have an advantage over the other stuck. That's why, I would definitely say take the points here. I think it's going to be close enough, but I wasn't there. I was more on the under.
Ole Miss at Florida. A lot of people have been asking me about this game. I have look, Florida's playing really well, but they're so beat up.
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss, they're coming off that big, like Ole Miss is coming off that Georgia game, but they had a bye. It's like, I think this is actually a decent spot for Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
And I worry about the Florida defense with their injuries against this Ole Miss offense.
Yep.
Ole Miss with you look at like the best of the best offenses that Florida has played. And, you can go back to the Texas game. They might just get roasted here. And is Ole Miss just going to be able to overwhelm Lagway with pressure? Ole Miss also getting healthier on offense. Let's see. Ole Miss sitting 10.5. I like Ole Miss here. I think this ends up being a blowout.
Put it on the board. I have game of the year -6.5.
I haven't bet it yet, so I won't put it on the board, but I think we both agree.
Yeah, I agree with you. I had a game of the year -6.5 because I knew this was a terrible scheduling spot for Florida coming off what they've done the last 4 games. I mean, it's just horrific scheduling, but there's a lot of things playing in Ole Miss's factor here. Beauty pageant contest rules that I talk about, seeds 5 through 11 looking to impress. Ole Miss is really under the gun, right? Because they're listed as the 4th best SEC team according to the selection committee. Texas, Bama, Georgia. Then Ole Miss falls 1 spot ahead of Tennessee. This game is 1 hour before Tennessee kicks off. Don't think that Lane's not thinking like, I have to have a better looking score than what Tennessee has over the next 2 weeks. This is a JP Jefferson Pilot kickoff time. I think Ole Miss right now is peaking on both sides of the ball. Offensively, Jackson Dart, they're top 5 in quality drives. half of the possessions against Georgia had 2+ first downs. That's impressive to me. Dart has 8 TDs to 1 interception over the last, 3 weeks since the bye week. His pass efficiency has skyrocketed since the Arkansas game when he hit Jordan Watkins for 5 touchdowns. And guess who's back this week? Trey Harris. So that's a huge problem for Florida, who had their SEC availability report come out on Wednesday night. And guess who's still on there? Corners Devin Moore and Justin Marshall are listed as out at corner. That means Dijon Johnson is going to have to play it again. He was picked on by LSU. He was targeted 8 times, allowed 6 to be caught, some very poor coverage grades. Now you got Jackson Dart and Trey Harris coming at you. Not a good look on that side of the ball, but the other side of the ball is where, it's just so easy to make a case for Ole Miss's defense. Princely, Umana Milan, Suntrain Perkins, 2 of the top 6 players in all of FBS in PFF for pass rush productivity. That's sick. 2 of the top 6 pass rushers of all the PFF individual players. Secondary is 31st in coverage, I guess. If you're looking for a gap in Pete Golding's defense, I guess the secondary is not as good as the rush defense or from a havoc perspective. So you say, can Florida do some damage? Montrell Johnson had a couple carries last week, should be full strength here. Elijah Badger, huge addition for DJ Lagway. But the problem is the Gators are not going to be able to stay in standard downs. They're not going to be able to run the ball. Ole Miss is going to shut that down. They're going to put Lagway into known passing situations. And here is where I think you should still play 10.5. The Ole Miss D leads the nation in average third down distance, 8.6 yards. Florida's offense is 99th in third downs. Florida will be in third downs often. They will be at 9 yards or more, and they only convert them at the 99th best rate.
When you're going up against one of the best pass rushes in college football, not ideal.
Florida's offense is 96th in havoc allowed. Listen, I get it. We've been playing Florida, but we got to get these corners back, right? First of all, we got to get the corners back, and right now Ole Miss is peaking. So if you put a bet in on the app, everybody can consider it, I guess, on the board. But I think Ole Miss rolls here.
All right, Kentucky at Texas. I like Kentucky.
Too high?
I like Kentucky.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to play Kentucky. I want 21.
I don't think it's going to go there.
Kentucky is healthy on defense now. They're only going to be missing their outside linebacker. They get the corners back, get Walker back. They had so many injuries on defense. When healthy, this is like a top 20 unit. They're going to take away explosives. And what has the Texas offense done that impresses you, except against all of the Florida backups when they just went nuclear?
They just throw dumps.
Michigan, everyone's like, that was a great offensive performance. 40% success rate, 5.5 yards per play, removing garbage time. Even against Vandy, Arkansas, Georgia was a 25% success rate. Even Oklahoma was not overwhelming. Their offense just, it's not firing on all cylinders. Stoops is going to call this game as like he bet on Kentucky plus 3 touchdowns. Slow it up, just like he did against Ole Miss. Texas, I don't think Texas needs margin. They need to win and then beat Texas A&M.
Yep.
And then they're getting in. So I don't think this is necessarily a beauty pageant for them. And we saw that with Sark last week. Sark didn't want to run it up for you. I think this number's too high. With Kentucky healthy, I like the Cats.
Had to hear
They're
you.
A good big dog.
Had to hear you take a couple victory laps on Arkansas this week before you'll be like, Sark decided to take his foot off the gas there. So I think that's what's going to happen here, Stuck. Texas with maybe the biggest game for their fans in the Sark era coming next week, I think, from a fan base perspective. So there's massive overlook for Texas here too. Kentucky, you're right. Stoops is going to play like his job is on the line. They have 4 wins. They have to win out. And I think if you get this margin, 24, 27 points, that back door is wide open in the second half for Kentucky to come in there and cover this number. I think this number should be 17. It's catching resistance at 20.5. I'll join you right now if you want. I don't mind taking 20.5. I think it should be lower, and I think it's going to go lower in the market. But Kentucky had a 4-game losing streak to Vandy, Florida, Auburn, Tennessee. They went into a bye. They thrashed Murray State, and now they're healthy. This is Texas throwing it into cruise control in the second half and a backdoor cover. And plus, you're right about the Texas offense. They have been taking advantage of weak corners the last couple of weeks, a lot of flare outs, a lot of dumps into the flats, and allowing blockers and wide receiver screens to get Bond loose and whoever else, Golden, whoever's out there. So, man, I mean, I don't think it's that scary because Texas is not that physical of a team where it scares me. They should be scared next week against Texas A&M though.
Vandy at LSU. I mean, like, is LSU, where are they at mentally? They're not good against mobile quarterbacks, but man, you're selling low on LSU. Diego been unbelievable as an underdog this year. I'd lean that way, but I have a weird feeling about this game. So I have an eerie feeling that LSU is
Yeah.
going to cover.
I think
So
it's a good spot for LSU. Yeah.
I'm staying away. Any commentary? Anything you like there?
No, there's nothing in the numbers that say that I think the numbers good. It lines up with what our projections are total also. To me, this is a bounce back game for LSU. And I
This
think
is the bottom of the market on LSU.
and the other thing too is there's this narrative out there that LSU can't handle mobile quarterbacks. So they can't. I mean, it's true, but Diego is more of a in between the tackles mobile quarterback than he is an outside scat back, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not Jalen Milrow. He's not Marcel Reed. Like, he's not Lagway. Like, he's inside the tackles, kind of a fullback dive kind of quarterback. So it's a different mobile quarterback that we're talking about here, and I think that plays into LSU's advantage.
You like USC?
I do like USC. It looks like the market disagrees with me. I took the open 4.5, I think 6 before it kind of came back down to 4.5 again. And Jade Maiava, he got USC to the window, a 28-20 win last week over Nebraska. Our offense is still top 25 in passing success rate, and USC just struggles on D in numerous areas. I mean, they're bottom 15 in quality drives, finishing drives. But the thing about Maiava is, he's prone to mistakes. He did it at UNLV. He had a couple of mistakes last week in turnover-worthy plays. But UCLA is 129th in forcing contested catches. That's not good here. And there's no pass rush. 124th pass rush rank for UCLA here. Jaden Maiava is going to be able to sit back in that pocket and just pick them off. And UCLA's offense is terrible in scoring position. 3 points per trip when crossing into the extended red zone. USC's D has been better in passing downs than they have against the rush. Top 30 in efficiency and allowing explosives. So I think the advantages all rely on the Trojans here.
All right, it's time for some trash. All right, trash 15-5 on the year.
How's there not a waste management bowl? We'd be so ready for it.
Oh yeah. Trash 15-5 on the year. You're 1-1, unfortunately, thanks to Kennesaw State in overtime. On our agree, by the way, we're 27-16, 62.7%, and that's even with San Jose State and 2 awful North Texas beats. So hopefully we can keep it up. We'll summarize the board as always at the end. Let's get to some trash. Oh, baby. I'm starting off with the corpse. Oklahoma State plus 3.5 at home against Texas Tech. I've avoided Oklahoma State, fortunately, like the plague all year, except for one time. Bet them when they went to BYU off the bye. They should have won that game. I'm banking on them showing up here one last time off their second bye. And by the way, Gundy 28-18 against the spread, 28-18, 61% with extra time to prepare. This is a team. Taj Brooks could just run wild here, but I don't see why Oklahoma State can't keep up. Texas Tech's defense is beat up and they're bad. I have these teams close to like 90th in defense. So this could easily turn into a shootout, but you have all these seniors, last home game, off the bye. I think Gundy gets them ready. Texas Tech, for what it's worth, under Joey McGuire, 0-3 against the spread as a road favorite of a field goal or more, failing to cover by 15 points per game. They've lost all 3 outright. I think the Pokes show up here. I think this line, I have it 2.8. So anything over a field goal. And I don't know where Texas Tech is at mentally. Like, I know they're mathematically alive, but basically they're out of the Big 12 title race. They're already in a bowl. Are they really going to be up for this game at Oklahoma State? And by the way, this is the first time under Gundy since 2005 they're going to play a meaningless game. Like, they're out of postseason contention. Pretty wild. I think they show up. Give me the Pokes.
I was banned by my spouse for betting on teams in the state of Oklahoma, but she's working this weekend and she ain't listening to this right now. So we're betting Oklahoma State.
Put it on the board?
Yeah, I actually put money down as you were talking, and I'm about to send it in on the app right now. This Texas Tech defensive numbers are horrific in every way, from tackling to quality drives to coverage. Coverage 128th. If Alan Bowman can't throw against his old team,
Alan Bowman revenge game.
Alan Bowman revenge game. I cannot believe that just got said on this podcast. No, there are advantages. As horrific as Oklahoma State's numbers are, there are still advantages against this Texas Tech defense. So I'm with you.
I mean, Alan Bowman feels like he was at Texas Tech, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Right after Pat
insane.
Mahomes.
Yeah. Crazy. You're not going to agree with this one.
Nope.
Virginia against SMU. I think Virginia's going to have a shot to win this game outright. They're going to start Calandria. He's been bad. He's been good. Who knows? But you need to throw downfield against this SMU team. He's going to have a short leash if he's throwing turnovers. And over his past few games, it hasn't been pretty. But the offensive line's actually in a better spot. I'm just not. I think that this is the peak of the market on SMU. I'm not fully sold on this Mustangs team. Yes, they turned it around since going to Jennings after the bye. Who have they beat? TCU by 24. They were outgained. They had a +4 turnover margin. Very fluky result. The corpse of Florida State. Louisville was an impressive win, but it was a coin flip game statistically. And it's not like Louisville has been great. Stanford with a freshman quarterback making its first career start. Duke in overtime. I know they had -6 turnover margin. Pitt, who I think is a fraud. And then BC, who was in the game last week at SMU. I'm not impressed. And, even if you include the -6 turnover margin against Duke, they're +8 in their other 6 wins after the bye. Those teams, 11 of 25 on 4th down. They've just been a bit fortunate, not only with the schedule, but just in other areas. They don't really efficiently run the ball. And I love Rashard Smith, but they don't really run block well. That's Virginia's biggest weakness. Virginia will have a starting safety out. They did get a bit banged up last week against Notre Dame, which is a bit of a concern. But I've said for months, SMU is losing this game. Tony Elliott, 13-3 against the spread as an underdog in ACC play. 8-0 when catching over a touchdown. Give me the Who's. +10.
Yeah. No, I'm not joining. I mean, I make this game 12. It is a bad spot. I'm sorry. What do I make this
Are you
game?
nervous?
Yes. Yeah, I'm actually very nervous. I mean, listen, the biggest bet that I had preseason was the win total. With a small, couple Benjamin Franklin's down on a 20-1 for them to win the conference, which I have less faith in all the time. But, there are certain things in Virginia's numbers that tell me that SMU at any point in this game is going to be able to take victory or cover the spread. I mean, Virginia is 126 in defensive stuff rate. And, they're outside the top 100 in so many other categories. The pass explosives for SMU is top 10 with Jennings in there. And Virginia is 113th in defending pass explosives. So I agree with you that I think Calandier is going to be able to get into the back of the SMU defense. Truthfully, I'm just crossing my fingers and hope that SMU gets alive, but I am not partaking in this spread.
Northwestern, catching double digits at Michigan. I mean, Michigan, with laying double digits, Michigan stinks, people. I think they're 0-3 against the spread laying double digits this year. Have they won a game by more than 10? I think the first game against Fresno, a game that was like a 6-point game with 5 to go. Since then, they haven't beat anyone by double digits. Northwestern's going to ugly this game up. It's going to be slow. They need to win for their bowl hopes. Does Michigan really care about going to a bowl the year after a shitty bowl, the year after winning the national title? They have Ohio State on deck. That's their Super Bowl next week. But Northwestern D, top 25 in the country. Can't run on them. You can efficiently pass on them. They don't give up explosives either with their shell, and they're going to get their 2 best defenders back this week. They're getting their best corner. He didn't play last week against Ohio State. They still did a really good job. That they played Ohio State really well. They had a punt blocked at the 1 and didn't score 3 times in the red zone. Their defense can keep them in this game. How is Northwestern going to score? I don't know. I mean, they got Kurtz back last week. That helps. Like, I trust Northwestern's receivers more than Michigan's. But, I mean, this game could be – I like the under, too. This game could end up like 13-7. It's going to be slow. It's going to be low scoring. Give me the double digits here. Road conference underdogs at low totals, less than 45, 56% over like a 600-game sample size. 159, 113, and 7, 58.5% when catching double digits. I like the Cats. They keep this close.
I'm not going to join.
Ugly game.
Yeah, I'm not going to join you here in the trash, but I am probably going to put an under in here after the pod. I project this at 35. I mean, if you take this total,
I'm under 35, so I don't mind the under.
if you take this total, you expect the final score to be Michigan 23, Northwestern 14. Like, can either of those offenses do that? I don't think so. So
Yeah, unless there's turnovers, like that's the only issue. But like that's the scare thing
Right.
about going under such a low total. But yeah, both teams are going to play it really conservative too, and they're going to play really slow.
Right.
This is like I think it's going to be like 17-10, 20-10.
These teams are 115th and 118th in offensive quality drives. How many 3-and-outs? You want to set we'll say there's 17 possessions in this game. I would go over under 1.5 quality drives in this game.
Last one, the scariest one. This is only going to be a small bet for me. UMass plus 42.5. I've seen over and over again that Kirby Smart doesn't give a shit about these games. Do you want to hear something crazy? As a favorite of 28 or more, Kirby Smart is 6-20 against the spread. As a favorite of 38 or more, 0-12. 0-12. I mean, I'm talking, you go back a couple years to the national title, they beat Samford like just 30-0. They're a great staff. They prepare for other things, not little sisters of the poor. They also don't want to get anyone hurt, and they just shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just a bet on that. I mean, if they care, they could blow out UMass. But UMass has been feisty on the road this year. Georgia, I just don't think cares. I don't think Kirby Smart cares. I doubt they spent any time prepping. This is just get a lead, shut it down. UMass. Back to the well. Hopefully they mentally recover. They should have beat Liberty. Good.
I think I disagree with you here. I've really kind of been trying to avoid this, but then you put it in the trash segment. So now I gotta. So here's the thing, because I make the game.
Am I putting it in the head-to-head?
I think you are. Yeah, I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna go Georgia minus 42. So here's the thing that kind of rings around in my head. Georgia was highly successful with an up-tempo passing offense last week. And I think if you want to keep any other wrinkles off tape, you're probably just going to go with what you had last week. It doesn't give anybody else that's scouting you anything new. I think you run the exact same plays. Can UMass stop those plays that Ben Urasek and Delp and all the other tight ends ran? No. I think that they essentially have a scrimmage practice game and try to get as many points on the board as possible. Why do they need to get as many points on the board and have continuity in their offense? Because Georgia Tech can score points fast. And you better believe they're coming out. The Yellow Jackets are coming out swinging next week. I don't think that you want to put a stall in this offense when they just had maybe their best offensive game of the season.
Yeah, but you also don't want to have injuries. They've already dealt with so many injuries.
Okay,
I think that their offense is going to come out and do well. Trust me.
You played.
I think they're going to go up 28-0, and then that's it. Shut it down. Second half, nothing.
Okay, yeah, maybe I should be playing Georgia first half instead of that. And plus, I don't know where UMass's head's at with Don Brown being dismissed, but I don't know if that's even a factor. But think about this, Stuck. What gets players hurt on offense? It's run blocking and running backs running through holes. Like if you just set an offensive lineman back and pass blocking, it's generally not a physical injury issue for them. And if you can burn corners of UMass, then why not do it? I just, I don't know. For me, I think the offensive continuity that you've been struggling to find for this Bobo offense the entire season, you finally got it. I don't think you're letting your foot off the gas a week before. You're going to get a Georgia Tech team that's got plenty of ways to score and get down the field.
0-12 against the spread. That's all I'm saying. 38 plus. Those were teams.
I'll go against you. I'll probably put first half in the app, but I'll go against you here.
By the way, speaking of fired coaches, RIP Biff, one of our producers' all-time favorites at Charlotte, is gone. Charlotte FAU. What a game this week between matchup of interim coaches. Colin, you do have a trash pick this week. I wouldn't even actually consider the trash game, but we'll put it here. Sam Houston State at Jacksonville State. By the way, listen to our new BCS episode if you want all of the scenarios for all of the conferences. This one is pretty wild. Everyone still has a chance because everyone plays each other. Who do you like here?
Well, the teams aren't trash. The conference is trash, but we're going to take Jacksonville State here. For all of us that have Sam Houston 20 or better to 1 to win Conference USA, I think you got to get out of it here. Find a way to get a Jacksonville money line, find a way to parlay it with something else, but just find a way to get the value of your Sam Houston State ticket that you put on futures and get it into here. Both these teams are built exactly the same stuck on offense, like mobile quarterbacks that run inside zone. And Sam Houston's going to run Hunter Watson, Jay Ducker, 56% success rate, 11% big play rate. They've been great on the ground. They move the ball very well using inside zone. And Jacksonville State is very poor in rush defense. But the problem for the Bearcats is in scoring territory, 129th in offensive finishing drives. They cannot convert red zone into points. It's been horrible. Jacksonville State, exact same setup with quarterback Tyler Huff and running back Trey Stewart, equally damaging on the ground using inside zone. They should have plenty of explosives against Sam Houston's defense. Here's the difference in this game. Jacksonville State offensively, 5th in finishing drives, 16th in red zone touchdown efficiency. To me, that's the difference between these two teams. I'd play Jacksonville State on the spread. I'd play the money line to get out of your Sam Houston futures ticket.
All right. Good stuff there. Before we get to some Arkansas football, let's go nowhere fast. All right. We have San Diego State at Utah State. Gross. Gross. Utah State's 4.5-point favorite, total 61.5.
Yeah, that number's too high. We've only lost one of these this year, but I'm going to say under. I project this at 55. San Diego State's a much better pass defense than a rush defense. And that's all they're going to see from Utah State. And when you look at Utah State, they're only 128th in pass explosives, which kind of shocked me for what they used to be under Blake Anderson. San Diego State's offense.
And they lost Royals too, which is a big loss.
Yeah, huge loss. San Diego State's offense is all explosives. Probably could get a score here, but offensive momentum killer rate, which we talked about before. Do you shoot yourselves in the foot on offense? Both these teams are outside the top 100. They cannot stop hurting themselves specifically in one area. These teams are 122nd and 133rd in penalties. I mean, this is just going to be a flag fest. There could be 25 of them. So I want under. Give me the under in this game. The explosiveness that each offense possesses is not going to be enough here.
All right, it's time for Colin to talk some Arkansas football.
Yeah,
Arkansas,
I mean, go ahead.
Arkansas 21.5-point favorite, total 49.5. Louisiana Tech still fighting for bowl eligibility, surprisingly, after they held Western Kentucky to 7 points at home in an upset win. Crazy. And one of the more shocking results of the year. Not that it was shocking that they won outright, but they held Western Kentucky to 7 points. Arkansas needs to win one of its final 2 games to get the bowl eligibility. This one is obviously the more likely outcome. Missouri on deck. I got a sneaky feel. This is a weird game. I have a sneaky feeling La Tech's going to cover, but I'm close to the number. What do you see here?
They could cover, but we're going Arkansas first quarter. Remember the rules that we threw out back when Arkansas played Pine Bluff. Petrino has a history of scoring an ungodly amount of points in the first half in these non-conference easy games and then shutting it down in the second half. It happens all the time. And Arkansas is full strength right now at every position. Jaquindon Jackson, ready to roll. The offensive line, all the health problems, they're ready to roll. Pittman mentioned the nickel-based defense for La Tech. He was calling out Rover Colby Fields as the player to focus on. Arkansas is going to have a pretty big advantage running the ball against this La Tech defense. Strength of schedule, 132nd. There's a lot of advantages here for Arkansas running the ball, but La Tech, bottom 20 in pass rush on defense. Taylon Green is going to have ample time, and that's been Taylon Green's biggest problem this year is that he makes the wrong decisions in RPO, especially when he's pressured. La Tech doesn't have any kind of pass rush whatsoever. Now, if you want to go a little bit deeper, defensive coordinator for La Tech is Jeremiah Johnson. Before that, he was at Northern Iowa. Petrino's offense at Missouri State played them twice in the span of a year. Remember when FCS had games in March of 2021 because of the pandemic? Well, Petrino beat Northern Iowa 13-6, then faced them like 7 months later. Missouri State played Northern Iowa again in the regular season and put up 34 points. So Petrino learned his lesson, won the game with only 13 points, went and played them, Jeremiah Johnson again, the DC at La Tech, and put up 34 points. I think he's going to be able to figure out how to attack this La Tech defense. Now, here's the key point why you're going to bet Arkansas first quarter. La Tech has scored a touchdown in the first quarter in only 2 of their 9 FBS games this year. They have a negative scoring differential in the first quarter. They have been horrible in the scripted portion of the games. Arkansas, the complete worst, I believe top 30 in scoring differential in the first quarter. And this follows that non-conference slate where Petrino's just going to slam you, and then you're not going to see anything in the second half. So Arkansas first quarter -6.5 is out there.
All right, before we get out of here, let's go 3-0. All right, first down, Friday Night Lights. Let's go through these quickly. Temple at UTSA. Stan Drayton wins a game in overtime and then gets fired. Interim for Temple. Temple might shut down their program, to be honest, soon.
No.
I got nothing here. Temple, UTSA, anything for you?
Under. I don't see Temple getting any points on the board here whatsoever. UTA's defense is very good at havoc, line yards, pass rush. If you lose under 55.5 because UTSA scored 56, fine. But I think under is the play.
Purdue at Sparty. Michigan State, 13.5 point favor, total 48.5. Michigan State needs to win out to get to a bowl eligible. I think that's like important for Jonathan Smith. They got Rutgers at home next week. Purdue sitting at 1-9. What does this team have left? I don't know. I lean Sparty first half on the script. So I can get yelled at by the voicemail callers again. Yeah,
Sparty first quarter or first half is the play. I think the number is exactly where it should be. I think the under should also have a look, because if Michigan State gets any kind of lead, I don't expect them to just route Purdue out. Although Purdue is allowing people to route them out. Purdue has scored 30 total points in the last 4 games. 30 total points. So I think you got to look at the under, or maybe a Purdue team total under, because it's just not happening on offense.
UNLV at San Jose State.
You know who we're going with, right?
Nick Nash, baby.
Yep. Yeah.
San Jose State plus, put it on the board.
Put it on the board. Listen, UNLV can't stop Nick Nash. They give up a ton of explosives, 116.
Yeah, they can stop the run. San Jose State doesn't run it, can't run it. You can hit explosives on this UNLV defense. And on the other side of the ball, the strength of the San Jose State defense is their run defense. That's the strength of UNLV. It's offense. And yeah, I think San Jose State can keep up here. Also, backdoor if needed. Nick Nash. San Jose State owes us for last week, too.
And San Jose State actually does create contested catches, and that is going to be needed against Ricky White. So I just, when you put Nick Nash versus Ricky White, there are better numbers for San Jose State.
All right, moving on to second down, our favorite overdog, aka our favorite. I'm going to go. Sorry to do this to you for your Colorado State Rams. I'm going with Fresno State. Look, Colorado State has been great, but let's look at their league schedule. It doesn't include Boise or UNLV. First, their 2 non-conference games that they won were against Northern Colorado and UTEP. Here are their Mountain West wins. San Jose State by 7, dead even game. Air Force by 8. Falcons have since benched their starting quarterback. New Mexico by 11. New Mexico 453 to 334 net yardage advantage, -4 turnovers. Nevada by 17. Nevada 441 to 327 net yardage edge. And then they dominated Wyoming. Even if you include Wyoming, the Wyoming game, Wyoming was, without their best weapon on offense. They outgained them by 200 yards. Even if you include that, Rams, who are undefeated in conference play, +41 total net yards. That's it. Now, so +7 turnover margin, favorable matchups when they played certain teams, and they played a bunch of teams that can't defend the run with key injuries. I think that the opposite is true now for Colorado State because they have injuries. Their top corner, their whole backfield all got hurt last week. Fresno State coming off a bye. And the key thing with Fresno State is they recently got their left tackle back. Last year, when Spomer went out, their offense crumbled down the stretch. Got him back 2 games ago. Their protection's been better. I think Mikey Keene can take advantage of this Colorado State secondary. Dean Clark should come back as well at safety. So, yeah, and Colorado State's strength is their run D. Fresno can't run it. They're just going to come out here. They're going to throw it, and I think they'll have success doing it against a vulnerable secondary that could be shorthanded. one of their stud safeties has been out the past couple games as well, was in a boot. So, yeah, I mean, against the slightly tougher schedule, Fresno State almost a half yard net better yard per play margin if you exclude garbage time. Fresno State, unlike Colorado State, Fresno State's been pretty unlucky. Like, you look at their losses, they lost in the final seconds in a couple of games. So, yeah, I like Fresno here. That's my favorite.
Yeah, completely agree. And for those of you who listen to the new BCS and have Colorado State tickets, get your investment back. My overdog is going to go against Stuckey's pick. I'm going to take Notre Dame as my overdog. I just don't see any resistance to this rushing attack right here. Remember, Army's strength of schedule is 133rd in the nation. Their defense is 41% success rate versus inside zone run concepts. That's what Notre Dame runs with Price, Love, Leonard. I think they are going to gash this Army defense consistently from down to down. Go to the other side of the ball. Notre Dame's defense had no problems defending the play action pass from Navy. They're going to be prepared by Al Golden for that play action pass to come. Sure, Army could have some success running the ball a little bit, but overall, this is Notre Dame running wild.
Disagree, obviously. All right, third down, our underdog moneyline parlay, our favorite underdogs to win outright. Rock Chalk, Kansas. Covered it already. Where are you going?
Oh, look at us putting together, getting everybody ready for college basketball. I'm going to go Duke.
Kansas, Duke.
Yeah, Virginia Tech. I don't know what's going on. I mean, Tootin and Drones are still listed as questionable on the injury report. Virginia Tech's coming off of a bye. I mean, are they going to hold Tootin and Drones out here and save them for Virginia next week to get 6 wins and go to a bowl? I mean, I don't know why you would do that. But I mean, both of them played against Clemson and they were completely ineffective, just not a factor in that game. So we'll see where Virginia Tech is offensively. Huge havoc concerns here for the Virginia Tech offense. Duke is second in the nation in havoc, only behind Ole Miss. Virginia Tech's offense 111th in havoc allowed. And Malik Murphy on offense for Duke is going to be very well protected. Top 25 pass rush for that offensive line for Manny Diaz's team. And you're going to need that because Virginia Tech's only strength on defense is the fact that they have a pass rush. So again, huge third down defense advantage for Manny Diaz, 10th nationally, way better than what Virginia Tech has going on. So give me the Blue Devils.
All right. And then before we get out of here, fourth down, go for it. Board recap. Are we putting Kentucky and Fresno on here?
Well, I mean, I want 21 in Kentucky too, but I'll do 20 and a half on the board if you will.
Okay. Put it on.
All right.
How about Fresno?
Oh, I agree with you completely. 100%.
All right. So, agree. We have 27-16 on the air. Kansas, BC, Oak State. Brett's going to be laughing somewhere when he's listening to this. San Jose State, Nick Nash, Friday night. Fresno State, late night Saturday. And Kentucky.
What a
collection. We're going to wait to see if there's 21. Head-to-heads, I'm 3-2 on the year. We got 3 this week. I'm on Indiana and Army. I'm riding with the public dogs here. I think they might be, well, Notre Dame. Army probably won't be. Indiana, I think, will be. And then UMass. Those are mine. I have Indiana, Army, UMass.
I'm gonna have
Georgia.
I'm gonna have energy shot before games kick because you and I are gonna be going back and forth on Twitter with each other.
Oh yeah. Trash. 15-5 on the year. Oak State, Virginia, Northwestern, and UMass. Colin adds in Jack State. That'll do it for us. Thanks to Colin for joining me as always. Thanks to our producer Matt Mitchell on the back end. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. We will be back Saturday with our live show. Make sure you check out the Group of 5 guys if you haven't. They always do a great job. Don't forget the college basketball episodes are coming soon. Recap episode will be out Monday morning, 959 Bad Beat. And by the way, are we still doing a recap episode, Mitchell? This week?
Yep.
I forget. Okay. Recap episode will be out Monday, 959 Bad Beat. And as always, NFL and college podcasts. I'm just going to be up for 3 days straight, and so will others. We make sure we will get them to you for the Week 14 slate by Wednesday morning. All that'll be out. So you got to make sure, you got to make sure everyone gets it day before Thanksgiving. So happy to do so. Make sure you subscribe, unsubscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Go to our YouTube channel, BBOC. Hit the subscribe button there. You can follow all of our bets on the award-winning Action Network app. Don't forget about the new Parlay Express as well if you're into some longer shot bets. 10:30 a.m. Eastern Saturday. We'll see you then. Don't forget about those 5-star reviews. Good luck on all of your wagers. Thanks for tuning in as always. Let's close the year strong and stay hot. Cheers.
Peace out.
Go Army.